Welcome to the sixth episode of Caffeine, Chaos, and Cusswords. I'm your host with the most, Sharon. And before we get started, I want to publicly acknowledge all the listeners helping the show grow. In the last 2 weeks, we have reached Ohio, Oklahoma, Maine, Michigan, Florida, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, California, Illinois, South Carolina, and Virginia. So thank you for spreading the chaos. And since it's almost St. Patrick's Day, we're honoring Irish history the only way that feels appropriate here, with crime, alcohol, bad decisions, and a man who simply refused to die. Some stories sound like urban legends, the kind of thing someone swears happened back in the day, but when you try to look it up, there's nothing but rumors and a blurry newspaper clipping from like 1912. Bullshit, basically. But this one is real. Every ridiculous, impossible, absolutely should not have happened part of it actually fucking happened. It's the story of a man who should have died a dozen times and somehow didn't. A man who outdrank poison, outlived a hit and run, and shrugged off murder attempts like they were mild inconveniences. A man who forced 5 grown adults to keep escalating their plans because he simply refused to cooperate by dying. How rude, honestly. This is the story of Michael Malloy, the unkillable man of the Bronx, and the 5 idiots who tried to murder him for insurance money and failed spectacularly. Michael Malloy was born in 1873 in County Donegal, Ireland, and by the early 1930s, he was living in the Bronx struggling with homelessness and alcoholism. People who knew him described him as friendly, harmless, and always looking for his next drink, which in the 1930s basically made him invisible as hell. What no one expected was that he would become the center of one of the most bizarre murder plots in American history, or that his liver was apparently forged in the fires of hell. The men who would eventually try to kill him were a group of 5 acquaintances who spent their days in and around a small speakeasy owned by Tony Marino. The group included Marino himself, Joseph Red Murphy, the bartender, Francis Pasqua, the undertaker, which is already a red fucking flag, Daniel Kreisberg, the fruit seller, and Hershey Green, the cab driver. All of them were broke, desperate, and looking for a way out of the financial misery of the Great Depression. And instead of therapy, they chose crime. The idea started with money, specifically insurance money. During the Depression, insurance scams were common among small-time criminals. And this group thought they'd found the perfect mark. Malloy had no close family, no stable address, and no one who would question his disappearance. To them, he wasn't a person, he was a payday with legs. They took out multiple life insurance policies under a fake name, Nicholas Mallory, naming themselves as beneficiaries. The total payout would be $3,500, roughly $87,000 today. Enough money to make 5 idiots think that they were criminal masterminds. They also believed that they could control every part of the plan. Marino owned the bar where Malloy drank. Pasqua was an undertaker who could handle the body and the paperwork. Murphy could sign the death certificate. In their heads, this was going to be easy as hell. Give Malloy unlimited alcohol, let him drink himself to death. I mean, he was kind of doing it to himself already, right? Then they'd collect the money and move the fuck on. What they didn't anticipate was that Michael Malloy was basically indestructible. Their first plan was the easiest. Give him an open bar tab, let him drink himself into oblivion. Malloy accepted the offer happily, drinking nonstop for hours. He'd pass out, they waited, he woke up, and then showed up the next day asking for more. Annoying, but fine. So they escalated. They tried poisoning him with antifreeze, turpentine, horse liniment, rat poison, and eventually straight wood alcohol. Malloy drank it all without hesitation because it was free. And he survived every single attempt. They fed him raw oysters soaked in wood alcohol. He ate them like a bar snack. They made him a sandwich of spoiled sardine mixed with poison and carpet tacks. He swallowed it without complaint, which is honestly horrifying on multiple levels. When poisoning didn't work, they tried freezing him to death by dumping him in the snow and pouring water on him. He lived. They ran him over with a taxi. He lived again. At this point, Malloy had survived more murder attempts than a cartoon character, and these assholes were running out of ideas. It wasn't until they resorted to carbon monoxide poisoning that Malloy finally passed away. Lobar pneumonia was the official cause of death, and Mike was quickly buried, with Dr. Frank Manzella signing the death certificate. Where the hell this guy came from, I have no clue. For a group of men who thought they were criminal geniuses, the murder trust forgot one tiny detail. Insurance companies don't just hand over money because you ask nicely. When Pasqua filed the claim, insurance agents immediately noticed some shit did not add up. The name on the policy did not match the name on the body. The cause of death didn't match the condition of the body. And the conspirators were calling insurance offices like they were tracking a late pizza. So the investigators started asking around the neighborhood, and locals were basically like, oh yeah, they tried to kill Mike repeatedly. You want the whole fucked up list? The bar regulars spilled everything. The freezing, the poison buffet, the taxi hit and run, the entire clown car timeline. Once the cops pulled one thread, the whole sweater came apart. And because basically the entire town started to talk about Mike the Durable, and upon learning that Michael Malloy had died that night, police had the body exhumed and forensically examined. The trial was an absolute circus. Reporters loved it because every detail was more ridiculous than the last. The prosecution laid out the murder attempts like they were reading from a slapstick horror script. The jury heard about the antifreeze, the turpentine, the horse liniment, the rat poison, the wood alcohol, the oyster experiment, the sardine and carpet tack sandwich, the freezing, the taxi hit and run, and finally, the carbon monoxide. Eventually, the courtroom stopped gasping and started wondering how 5 people could be this bad at murder. I mean, maybe we should introduce the courtroom here to the episode 1 5 Chinese hitmen because, wow. Anyways, the defense tried to argue that Malloy died of natural causes, which is a bold fucking claim when your victim survived more assassination attempts than a cartoon coyote. The verdict was guilty. very guilty, embarrassingly guilty. Dr. Manzella, the one who had signed the official death certificate, was held as an accessory after the fact with a $10,000 bail, which is the equivalent of $248,715 today. But he was ultimately convicted of a misdemeanor in failing to report a suspicious death to the police and medical examiner. Green was convicted of attempted murder with a prison sentence of a minimum of 10 years, while the other 4 accomplices were sentenced to death and were executed by electric chair at Sing Sing. Kreisberg, Marino, and Pasqua were executed on June 7, 1934, and Murphy was executed on July 5, 1934. The bar closed, the insurance scam never paid out, and the entire group went down in history as some of the most incompetent criminals ever documented. Meanwhile, Malloy, the man they tried so damn hard to kill, became a legend. Michael Malloy's story lives on because it's so absurd it feels fictional, but every part of it is documented in newspapers, court records, and police reports. Mike's legacy is a mix of dark comedy, tragedy, folklore, and the uncomfortable reminder of how disposable society thought some people were. Today he's remembered as Mike the Durable, Iron Mike, and the Rasputin of the Bronx. The murder trust wanted an easy payday. Instead, they created a legend and completely ruined their own lives in the process. Thank you for hanging out with me for this wild, deeply fucked up ride into true crime absurdity. If you want more chaos, more weird history, and more stories that make you say, I'm sorry, what the fuck? Make sure you're following Chaos Pod Crew everywhere. You can find us on all socials under Chaos Pod Crew. If you've got suggestions, theories, or just want to scream into the void with us, email us at chaospodcrew@gmail.com. Check out chaospod.wixsite.com/caffeine for episode notes, sources, and updates. And don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. That's where the extra chaos lives. Shout out to our sponsor, W Energy, fueling my chaos one cup at a time. You can get your own W Energy at w.gg and get 10% off using my promo code CaffeineCrew at checkout. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay caffeinated, stay curious, and stay chaotic. Until next time. This has been a Busy House production.